now being made out by the opposition. In fact, this has been their constant refrain. But let me make my submission in two parts. First, democracy is a function of accommodation and compromise, which presuppose the ability to forge consensus. But Nidhi, it takes two to tango. The government of the day is certainly always interested in forging a consensus in order to get its key legislative business across without hurdles. But what happens where the opposition is bent upon being obstructionist? Now I want to ask you whether there is a distinction or not between conflict, competition and contestation of ideas. Democracy is a contestation of ideas to be debated on the floor of the House. It is not necessarily only about conflict. And life, like democracy, gravitates towards moderation. Until you take the middle course, until you take the middle ground by a process of trial and error, debate and argument, arrive at consensus, our democracy itself could be derailed. So there's a larger challenge before the nation. We've got to take a call on this, Nidhi, and we can only do so if on certain issues at least we take a nationalist posture, lift ourselves above the compulsions of partisan politics.
You know, on the particular issues that the opposition is keen to raise, one of them being, for example, the coal block allocations, on the Aircel Maxis deal, which has, you know, Mr. Chidambaram on the mat. Is the government ready for a discussion on these issues as well?
We have repeated it ad nauseum. Anything under the sun could be discussed in Parliament. We are not running away from a debate. I want to take this opportunity of stating it as candidly, as clearly and as cogently as I can that the government is committed to a constructive debate on the floor of the two houses. This is a constant message that we send out to the opposition. But since they are not interested in being demolished in a rational debate, they take recourse to bluff and bluster and anger.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Chandra Mitra would be more than happy to hear that you're ready to debate the Aircel Maxis deal, Mr. Mitra.
You see, I mean, I was listening very intently to the philosophical discourse that given by Mr. Ashwini Kumar, kind of promoting the Buddhist middle path and so on and so forth. I hope they are serious, because we have not seen any evidence of this government being in a conciliatory mood or reaching out to the opposition, especially during the tenure of UPA 2. In UPA 1, they were very conceited because they thought the left was with them and they could bulldoze through everything.
You don't think the opposition has been obstructionist? You don't think the opposition has been obstructionist as well?
No, Nidhi, let me just take you back. One, Bharat has already mentioned that this JPC issue on which the entire session was lost. What was the issue? Whether JPC should be formed or not formed. And a few weeks after the whole of entire session was kind of wasted, government announced the JPC. So what was the problem? Why couldn't they announce it in time? It was we got a lot of business transacted, and then every session we lost an average 7 days because the government was insistent on the price rise issue not being debated under a rule that entails voting. Now, what is the problem? If the government has a majority, I have not understood that why they did not agree to a motion moved under rules that entail voting. But no, they said nothing doing, they would not talk, and 7 days were lost on that account for 3 successive sessions. Is this cooperation? Is this trying to get the opposition on board? And today, to say, you know, Mr. Chidambaram is going and meeting people and having a cup of tea, I mean, and if his attitude changes, I would be very surprised, because that would disprove the old adage that a leopard does not change its spots.
I want to ask Mr. Bharat Bhushan, what's going to be the biggest headache then, you think, for the government in this session? Is it going to be Mr. Chidambaram?
But more than Mr. Chidambaram, I think it's the coal block, the corruption issues. And you know, Mr. Ashwini Kumar says there should be compromise. Yes, democracy works on compromise. But you tell me, what is the middle path between charges of corruption, non-application of mind, favoritism, and claims of honesty, integrity and above the board behavior? There is no middle path. So there is bound to be confrontation on issues of corruption.
So how do we take that forward, Mr. Ashwini Kumar? What is that middle path practically?
Well, let me answer both of them. I didn't expect anything better from Chandan because he's used to be living in the past. But let me remind my good friend Chandan that there's no politics without philosophy. I was neither philosophizing nor sermonizing. I was stating the obvious truth, and this is my fond hope that Indian democracy gets to the center of politics and not be languishing on the extremes. Now, to answer Bharat Bhushan about there being no middle ground on corruption, yes, there can be no compromise with corruption. When I talked of the middle ground, I was talking about on certain issues there should be a non-partisan approach, and corruption is one of those. But that approach presupposes an honest, rational, constructive debate. You cannot say, I'll hurl a stone at you and run away without hearing you. And that is what the opposition has been doing time after time. We saw it last time. Yesterday we saw it. Today we saw it on the Wisconsin killing issues. The moment the Akali Dal representative stopped her speech, and when our representative wanted to speak up, there was commotion in the House. We saw it yesterday. We've seen it over and over again. I only hope that this brand of politics that BJP has perfected will now be changed, because we become wiser and maturer with time. I certainly hope and fondly hope that the BJP leadership would change its track of politics and its brand of politics.
Okay,
the nation demands a more constructive politics.
With those fond hopes, though, I have to turn to the next subject tonight. I'd like to thank Mr. Mohammad Salih for giving his inputs tonight from Lucknow. It is now Baba Ramdev's turn. The yoga guru began a 3-day fast in the national capital today to bring back black money and for a strong Lokpal bill. And unlike Anna Hazare's fast, the numbers for Ramdev at the Ramlila Maidan have been pretty impressive. But the centre has been dismissive, saying there's a Ramlila every year.
हमारा कोई पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा नहीं है और ना रहेगा। हिंदुस्तान कैसे बचे, बस इसकी चिंता रहेगी। लोकतंत्र कैसे बचे, काला धन कैसे, भ्रष्टाचार कैसे मिटे, देश के 121 करोड़ लोगों को आर्थिक और सामाजिक न्याय कैसे मिले।
14 months after a midnight police crackdown forced him to escape from the Ramlila Maidan dressed as a woman, Baba Ramdev was back on the same platform.
Thousands of Baba's supporters turned out for his shivir here in the capital. Many of them had been preparing for weeks. In fact, several of his volunteers were given special training how to handle the crowds here. Baba's team is expecting many more of his supporters to turn up here.
The planning seems to have paid off. More than 15,000 Ramdev supporters turned up at the Ramlila Maidan on day one. This in sharp contrast to Anna Hazare's protest at Jantar Mantar less than 10 kilometers away, which had initially struggled to draw the crowds. Team Anna had announced an indefinite fast and had to call it off after almost 10 days. But Ramdev announced that he would limit his fast to 3 days, perhaps testing the waters before deciding on his next step.
दोनों का एम एक है कि देश को करप्शन मुक्त करना है। एक स्ट्रेटजी है, हमदर्दी पब्लिक के लिए है, अपने लिए ना अन्ना जी कुछ कर रहे हैं ना रामदेव जी कुछ कर रहे हैं।
आदरणीय अन्ना जी के सोशल एजेंडे के हम साथ थे, आज हैं और आगे भी यदि कोई सोशल कोज लेकर के खड़े होंगे तो हम साथ देंगे। हमारा किसी राजनीतिक दल से बैर विरोध नहीं है। यह आंदोलन किसी व्यक्ति या पार्टी के खिलाफ नहीं है।
Ramlila is a place where the Leela is performed, and the script of the Leela can change, but in a democracy, everyone has their own way of interpreting and expressing themselves.
तो होना ही है, डेमोक्रेसी में डायलॉग तो होना ही है, उसके बगैर हम नहीं चल सकते। और यही मुझे लगता है कि एक मैसेज जाना बहुत जरूरी है कि भाई बैठ के अक्रॉस द टेबल ही हम चीजों का सोल्यूशन ढूंढ सकते हैं।
Ramdev has permission to be at the Ramlila grounds till the end of this month. However, the TV yoga guru probably realizes that after Team Anna's last campaign, which ended in Anna Hazare disbanding his team, a long drawn-out campaign may not sustain the numbers. Bureau Report, NDTV.
But does Ramdev have the credibility to lead an anti-corruption movement? That's the question we're asking at a time when there are lots of questions being raised about Ramdev himself, his funding, whether or not he's paid his taxes. We have Sohail Seth joining us on this particular part of the panel tonight. Let me ask Mr. Chandan Mitra first. Mr. Mitra, the BJP has been very supportive of Ramdev's protest, but What exactly, is this about? What exactly is his aim? Because it's fine to say bring back black money, but he doesn't exactly say how. It's a very complex issue and a very vague issue as well.
Nidhi, the issue of bringing back black money was first raised by the BJP, Mr. Advani in particular, on the eve of the 2009 Lok Sabha elections. And we had suggested a series of ways, and government also immediately after being elected in 2009 gave an assurance, the Prime Minister gave an assurance that the black money would be brought back, letters rogatory would be sent out and investigations would follow and black money would be brought back. Various estimates have been put out from time to time. Some accounts have been discovered, they have been given a sealed envelope to the Supreme Court, but this is the tip of the iceberg. The government is not serious about it, and that's why we believe that Baba Ramdev's joining issue on this matter on bringing back black money is actually part of the larger fight against corruption which is being led by the BJP, and we have been all along demanding that this be done. So the support from civil society groups, whether it's Baba Ramdev or Anna Hazare, is a very welcome move, and we believe that is consolidating the national mood against corruption, which has been patronized by the ruling party for a long time, because the succession of scams.
But you're not worried. You're not worried about the fact that there are serious question marks about Ramdev himself today. I mean, one of his close aides was arrested for forgery. There are serious issues about his own wealth, his own income, about whether or not he's even paid income tax. So doesn't that bother you? Doesn't that worry you?
Well, you see, this has been the Congress's instrument all along. That, as the old saying goes, give a dog a bad name and hang him. Because whenever somebody takes a position which is against the Congress party and the government, this is a typical government mechanism, and then wave a dossier in front of them and make them dilute or change their stand. We have seen it being done to Mayawati and Mulayam Singh, and is probably happening to Ramdev. I don't know the details of the case. Let some findings come. These are only allegations as of now. Anybody can make any kind of allegation, but the manner in which Baba Ramdev has been vilified by Digvijay Singh in particular, while at one stage senior ministers